like to take the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Carrington. Just to give a little background of myself, I worked for I was a civil servant for about almost 20 years, and I made the decision about 3 years ago to go into the private sector. I'm a health and safety coordinator with a company called Flatiron Dragados. So I support the corporate offices as well as all our projects. So one of the projects that I can honestly say we are on time, which is the Finch West LRT. So not the Eglinton, but Finch West. Although we did the tunnel for Eglinton, but everything that's happening is not our concern. But that being said, Finch West LRT, very proud to have been part of that we are going to be on time, so 2026, that will be opening. And the other thing that I'm very proud of is the fact being part of the Gordie Howe Bridge, that's going to be opening on time for that one as well for 2026. So the last 3 years has been very exciting, being part of the private sector and being able to take my ministry background, which was 15 years with Ministry of Labor, and now incorporated into now the private sector. So double whammy, right, for when I go on sites and stuff. So that being said, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce NATASHA Calendar-Wilson. So NATASHA is the CEO of Bass Installation, a leading Mississauga-based glazing contractor where she has been a key leader since 2003. With a background in economics and psychology from York University and business systems from Humber College, she brings deep expertise across multiple construction trades. NATASHA has guided Bass through major industry challenges, expanded its leadership team, and helped grow the company to over 140 employees. A graduate of the BDC Ivory Academy Leadership and Growth Program, she's committed to building strong communities, championing women in the trades, through partnerships with organizations like Build a Dream and TCBN. So with that being said, let's put our hands together to welcome NATASHA to the podium.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you, Tanisha, for reaching out and inviting me to this TCBN event. I wanted to really just start off by I guess I'll show the agenda first just so we can keep track of time here. So what we'll talk about today is a little bit about my personal journey in leadership. I want to redefine also what inclusive leadership looks like coming from an employer in the construction space, the strategies for creating an inclusive workplace and supporting women in construction, and then we'll end with some key takeaways and just closing remarks and any questions and answers that we can go through. Okay, so I did make some notes, so forgive me if I'm reading quite a bit here, but I wanted to make sure I capture everything that is important. So that's me. I dug it up from the archives. But what I really wanted to say was stepping into this role as CEO of Bass Installation was both an accumulation of my years of hands-on experience and the beginning of a new chapter in my professional life. Thank you. My construction journey began in early 2000s in the office working alongside my father, Stephen Callender, where I was running payroll and doing the books, and he was doing the sales and pricing jobs while working in the field. I learned the importance of resilience, adaptability, and problem solving, and at that time, not knowing that these earlier experiences would have shaped my understanding of business and instilled a deep respect for the people who make our projects possible. As I progressed through the various roles as bookkeeper, safety manager, HR manager, VP, I've gained a holistic view and experienced what was needed for the success of the company's operations. This breadth of experience gave me the foresight to understand the challenges that would be faced by every member of my team and informed my approach to leadership, one rooted in empathy, fairness, and respect. Shaping my leadership style, my leadership style really has been shaped by mentors, industry challenges, and a steadfast commitment to equity mixed with my own personal values. Growing up as a girl, an only child, I actually wasn't allowed to only play with Barbie dolls and easy bake ovens. But I was encouraged to explore my curiosity, take things apart and put them back together again so that I can understand how things worked. Sure, there were times when I fell short and couldn't figure out how to fix it, but I was never punished for exploring my curiosity, just as long as I learned from my experiences. Today, in my role as CEO, I find myself encouraging my team in a similar way. Use their perspectives to explore their curiosity, find new ways of doing something, and not being afraid to make mistakes, just as long as we've learned from our experience. This industry is competitive, tough, and constantly requires innovation and fresh thinking. The success of the company starts with building trust within our diverse teams and fostering a culture where every voice is heard. The vision to lead, my vision to lead rather, is pretty simple when it comes to BAS installation. We treat people with humanity and have a purpose in everything that we do. It is centered on creating a workplace defined by inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. And I am committed to ensuring that every employee feels valued and empowered to contribute and to strive to make our company a model for diversity and innovation in the industry. Ultimately, my journey as CEO is a testament to the power of resilience, mentorship, and clear vision. By embracing challenges and championing equity, I've developed a confidence to lead with purpose and inspire others to reach their full potential. When it came to my leadership style, I started very young. I was probably about 19, 20 coming into the industry, into the construction space. And I remember one of my first jobs going through North Bay, Ontario, Callender, Ontario to be specific, because my last name is Callender, can't forget that. And walking the job sites and having guys literally dropping tools around me. I couldn't understand rather if it was because I was a woman or just because I was extremely beautiful. So I like to always think of the latter. But it was rare. It was rare to see not only just women on construction sites, but Black women, and especially in rural parts like North Bay, Ontario. So this was me on top of the now St. Regis Hotel when we were building the Trump Tower in Toronto, and I was a project coordinator back here. So. The vision to lead, sorry for racing through this, but I do want to come back to the slides because spending time finding these photos wasn't easy. This is some of my team. The members here, we come from such diverse backgrounds. We have Sudanese, Indian, myself Barbadian, Indigenous, Somalian. I am so proud of my team and for the diverse community that we've built. And it's not just about women, even though I know we're here to talk about women today, but it is about building a community where we feel inclusive. And that includes our cultures and our backgrounds. Okay, so next, talking about the defining inclusive leadership. So, the key elements, in my opinion, of leadership in an inclusive workplace. Inclusive leadership traits include effective leaders that promote respect, empathy, and fairness to foster an inclusive workplace culture. So what does this mean? It means humanity, treating people how you want to be treated, and in all fairness. When it comes to diverse team collaboration, leadership encourages collaboration among diverse team members to drive innovation and success. Again, with treating people with humanity, bringing people together from different backgrounds, and bringing perspectives and new innovations. That's how we get ahead. A study by Proof Hub stated that 73% of the employees reported better performance and 60% felt more innovative with stronger team collaboration. And finally, empowering our employees. Leaders empower all employees by valuing diverse perspectives and providing equal opportunities. And I wanted to take a minute just to share a quick story. At BAS, one thing that I'm very proud that we do is we have these toolbox talks, not just in our field, but in our office, where we discuss things like mental health challenges, burnout, family, work-life balance, and things that matter to our employees. And what it is, every 2 weeks we get together and we do almost like a group huddle for 10 to 15 minutes and talk about the challenges that are arising in our day-to-day. So whether we're having challenges meeting a deadline, whether it's a challenge trying to find that work-life balance and how to manage, sometimes working overtime and still having a family to be there present for, it gives our team really an opportunity to voice their concerns. And what we found is it allows them to practice that behavior of sharing their thoughts, sharing their feelings. Because when you're in intimate groups like that, sometimes it feels like you're isolated. You may not want to share it. By going around the room and asking everybody, do you have anything that you want to add? And being vulnerable almost and sharing those experiences allows us to actually transfer that now into our team meetings. I'm very proud of it. I think that's something I wanted to just share because, again, it's allowing everybody to have a voice, and that matters. So next, I wanted to talk about supporting women in construction, which is very dear to me. So the fact is, according to Go Construct, women make up around 14% of our construction industry professionals, and this number is only set to rise. And we really need to start thinking about how can we support that. A couple things that we're doing and that we're seeing in our industry that's changing is bias reduction in hiring. Has anybody heard of this before? I'm sure we have. Bias reduction in hiring. Well, what it means is that when we're looking at candidates to hire, it's not looking at their name, not looking at their demographics, but only looking at their merits. So if we're looking for someone to fulfill a particular role, it's do they meet the qualifications before looking at a name, gender, demographics, et cetera. And that helps with us finding the right candidate for the right job, not because of race, gender, or any of those other factors. Another new policy that we're seeing in the industry and that we've adopted is flexible work arrangements and benefits. Flexible work arrangements or options accommodate different employee needs, enhancing work-life balance and productivity. This one's actually particularly close to me too. We had recently one of my managers, who is a female, has 3 kids, and she was actually afraid to come to me, but we had a discussion where she needed some help with childcare arrangements. She missed the window to get before and after school care during the school time and wasn't sure if she'd be able to keep her job with us. So her first thought was to hand in a resignation letter because she couldn't manage it. And I said, whoa, let's have a conversation. What's going on, right? We all have things going on in our lives. It turned out that she was afraid that we would have to fire her and she wanted to go out with dignity. But the truth was that she just needed some special accommodations. She needed to be able to pick up her daughter or drop off her daughter before school and pick her up after school. So what did that mean for me? I had a very good employee who I didn't want to lose, who was productive, and we just had to make some adjustments. So what we did, and I understand not every company can do it, but it's making those special accommodations. We reduced her hours to part-time so that we weren't overloading her or burning her out, so that she can still provide purpose and contribute to her family dynamic while still working and being there for her family. But the same goes true, and similarly, we had a situation where a young man came to me, and without knowing about our colleague, he is not a father, but he is an uncle. And what was important for him was that he provided support for his sister who just had a baby. They were looking for childcare. They weren't able to find the appropriate childcare at that moment, and all he wanted was 2 months of support so that he can be there and work from home 2 days a week. Imagine, and this is where sometimes it gets interesting, working in a male-dominated industry. His supervisor was a male, and when he approached his supervisor, they thought, absolutely not, this isn't even your child. Why are you being so concerned about, right? And this is in my own company. When I heard about it, and even when my director of people and culture heard about it, we were appalled. We said, no, that's not how we treat people. We treat people with humanity. We give them an opportunity to provide good work for good pay. We don't just turn them down. What's important to our employee is important to us. So we provided a solution, again, where there is an ability for this individual to work from home, still be there to help support the day-to-day needs of his family dynamic, and still get the job done. And it doesn't take much effort. You just have to change the way we think about things, right? When it comes to equity, safety needs, and internal development, I'm sure we all know about this, but it's worth mentioning. Equity audits for fairness. So really what it is conducting equity audits to ensure fair pay for equal opportunities across the organization. Again, what we do is we take notes. We take polls to find out how satisfied are our employees, particularly women, because we do realize that sometimes there is a disparity. Luckily, we are in a unionized environment where that disparity is diminished because everyone's paid for equal pay for equal work. However, in the office, there could be times things slip. So we conduct these annual audits to make sure that people are satisfied with the workload, with their pay, with the benefits that are being offered, et cetera. And that is critical for today's business. Women's safety gear, this is simple, but it needs to be said again. Equity and equality are different, as we know. Providing all women with the same harness as a man doesn't get the job done, right? We have a different shape than men. We have to have special accommodations for our body, our PPE, and wearing it on our bodies. So what is good, what we end up doing too is we do provide those harnesses free of charge for our workers. It becomes part of their toolkit, but we also acknowledge those who need bigger sizes or those who need some type of custom adaptation for their bodies, like women. We make sure those are provided. And finally, internal development programs. We've worked with our women, especially in the technical and leadership roles, to make sure that they are being supported in the roles that they are looking to pursue. I didn't mention it here, but we do offer tuition reimbursement programs, and that really goes for anybody in the organization. But more particularly, we've also started development training with managers and one-on-ones, and that's been very key. Having one-on-one discussions with our people to understand where they're at mentally, what's going on, and not so much in their lives, but what can we do to support. That's what we need, because at the end of the day, we all want to get the same job done. And more excitingly even is the opportunities that we've created for networking. So for the networking opportunities, we've partnered with companies like, or the associations like the Canadian Association of Women in Construction. They're known as CAWIC. They provide support for women in construction, which has been a great ally. TCBN, of course, right, and having this event. And then Build a Dream is a new one that we've been partnered with, and they're doing phenomenal work trying to get young females into our construction and skilled trade spaces. So as I start to wrap up, I wanted to just kind of reemphasize some of those key takeaways. Core leadership qualities. Effective leadership embodies vision, confidence, and the inclusivity that guide team success and innovation. The team must explore their curiosity to find ways of doing something new and not being afraid to make mistakes, just as long as they've learned from their experience. And number one for me is to lead with humanity and in purpose in everything that we do. The impact of supporting women in our industry have many key benefits. Strengthening our industry workforce, supporting women enhances diversity, creating a stronger and more resilient construction workforce. Driving innovation, women bring unique perspectives that fuel creative solutions and technological advancements in construction. And finally, with the economic growth, employing more women leads to broader economic benefits and industry growth opportunities. And lastly, I just had a couple of quotes that I wanted to leave you guys with. The meaning of inclusive leadership. Inclusive leadership ensures representation and fosters environments where every individual can thrive and contribute. Creating thriving spaces, leadership focused on inclusion builds supportive spaces and empower all voices and talents to succeed. And that does conclude my presentation, but I really wanted to open it up. Thank you. Thank you. I really wanted to just take a moment to open it up and see if there are any questions, if we can have an open, frank discussion about even just your own experiences, what everybody's gone through. Yeah, okay. Do we have a mic or should we?
Thank you so much. I don't have a question, I just have a comment to commend you on taking that approach. And I was just blown away by that in terms of you understanding what the employee needed. And you didn't just say, well, we don't do that here, you know, something like that. But you looked at what can be done, what can you do to help? Because you also recognize her contribution to the corporation, right? And so it's a win-win. And the other example that you gave about the uncle. It doesn't matter if he's not the father, who cares? But he wants to be able to support his family. That's still his family. So I think that your approach is refreshing. I was saying to my friend here, can I go work for her? Thank you.
So we've had quite a few of those come in. So just look for the resumes coming from here, right? Hold on. Let me go here first.
Hi, Natasha. I want to say congrats on helping to build your dad's company bigger than what it was. I just have a question for you. You said, I think it said you increased the employee number to 140? Of the 140, exactly how many females are there? I know you gave me in percentage, but I prefer numbers.
Yeah, okay. We have about 9 women, unfortunately, and we have reduced from the 140 back then. We have lowered because of the economy. Businesses have slowed, right? So we're sitting at about 100 right now.
So 100
Yeah,
employees and
yeah.
9 of those were females?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed you were pretty high. How high do you guys do the installation work?
Oh, in terms of floors?
Yeah, and how high would, if I was a female working for you, how high would I need to climb
as high as you're
do-
comfortable climbing.
Okay, so
I-
you let them decide.
It becomes, and I remember there was a comment earlier about refusing unsafe work.
Correct.
Unsafe work could even mean fear, let's be real, right? And if you're afraid of heights or you're fearful of doing an activity that your employers ask, we don't push. We find the person who's suitable, who's maybe experienced or comfortable doing that task. I have one of my girls right now, she's a glazer. Her name is Kayla, and she, getting onto the site, she was afraid of heights. She just said, I can't do the heights, but I'll do everything else. And we gave her a shot, and slowly but surely she's getting there, and at her own speed. If
Right.
it's something she's not comfortable doing, like anybody, again, man, woman, child, it's not about gender, it's about the safety of our individuals. So.
Yeah, and that's important.
100%.
Also, I wanted to tell you, I respect you for helping your employee with the pickup for her child, but I had a comment to make. Because if it was me, and we have a lot of females in the trade that don't necessarily have daycare that opens at certain time in the morning and late at night for you to be able to pick them up, which is something we're trying to include in Her Path. I'm wondering, why did you not give her the opportunity to just drop the child off, come to work, and then pick the child up by leaving a little bit early versus putting her on part-time and then therefore cutting down the amount of income she would have brought in?
And we considered that. We spoke to her about that beforehand. It really came down to a work-life balance. I couldn't expect her to do full-time with reduced hours. That would bleed into her family time and her family activity, and it did. So we had to make some adjustments.
Okay.
But to be clear, she does work from home 3 days a week, and then she comes into the office from 10 to 2 on the alternate days. And that was the accommodation that we could do for a part-time.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also had to consider restructuring some of her workload with some of her team members, which was fine. It allowed for more growth opportunities for some other members as well. But again, I say it, with a grain of salt, because there are some people that will try to take advantage of a situation
Agreed.
like this.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how well does this person perform, how dedicated and loyal have they been, and how much do they really want to be here? Because if I'm seeing no production and people are working from home and nothing's getting done, we can't honor that either. We're not a nonprofit, right? We need to make money to keep the business going. No, that's my truth, right? So unfortunately, and then I can't offer the same token to my field workers, and I have women in the field. If the job starts at 6 and they have so this is a struggle for me as well. And I don't want to lose good women because they can't figure, and just parents even thinking about it, right? I have men that are single dads and they're saying, I can't get to work any earlier than 8. And unfortunately, we can't do anything about that, right? And that's just because when you think about logistics on site, you're dealing with hoists. We deal with really tall skyscrapers. We're dealing right now with one that is, 90 stories in the sky. Just getting to your floor takes about an hour with waiting time, other trades, materials. So now you're late on top of it. You're not starting work till 12.
Yeah.
Everybody, so it's just not productive, and it's not going to foster that mentality that we want on the field or in the sites. So we can't do it for everybody, but where we can, we try to make sure we can accommodate.
Thank you for answering my questions.
So it's not really a question, it's just the comment or whatever. Your company, you and everybody with it, just to hear your journey from starting from, just helping your dad and then building the business and stuff, that's incredible, amazing. The other thing too that what you're talking about is just which I believe in is servant leadership. And that's what you exude.
Thank you.
Is servant leadership is where it's not about the title. It's not about the glorification of you rising up. It's making sure that your team is good. And as long as they're good, you're good.
100%.
And so it's a nice balance and it's refreshing, especially a woman of color.
We need to figure out how we can really support each other. And honestly, employers have the right to make their own policies, right? So hopefully when we are working with other employers and different people, we can choose who we want to work with, because I know the economy is really crappy right now. But when it does start to flourish again, you have a choice to make on who you want to work with. And don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting, and especially when you mentioned about one aspect of the leadership is about also treating people with humanity. It's very good point. But I do have questions with S.
Okay, let's go.
First question will be about how did you manage to climb into the position improve your professional background into holding position as a COO? This is my first question, and then I do have two more questions. How do you manage your emotion, and how do you manage the others' emotion when it comes to having meeting, conducting meeting, working with the employees from different background? This is the second question. The last question is about the construction industry. How do you see it currently? How do you see it in a few years? Whether there is some upcoming project in terms of also how is the competition coming? And last question,
Okay.
what approach are you using managing the project?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So let's start with the, just my journey really. So it really did start from the ground up. The only thing I can say that I didn't do was being in the field. I was never a field worker or in the skilled trades. I was never a unionized member. That was something I had wanted, but back then it just didn't pan out that way. So going to school, getting my degree, getting all of my education, I found myself working for my dad, right? And that's really where it's interesting because I had other jobs and I was just trying to navigate through school. But it just organically happened where he started a company and he was on the tools. He didn't have time to manage a business, right? And most contractors, that's the case. They love working with their hands. They get the job, they get the construction, but they don't get the business, right? So maybe he even planned it this way, go to school and then come back. Now that I think about it. But the truth is, I was able to now apply my learnings in the business and it was almost a case study for me. So again, like he needed a bookkeeper to run payroll. He couldn't do it all. So I started stepping into that role, learning as I went. And I was taking accounting also in school. This is something that was fascinating to me. But then before you know it, we needed to hire. So guess what? I'm putting on that HR hat, right? I'm digging up policies. And back then we didn't have Siri and Google the way it was, right? So it was really trying to see, who's got a really good policy that we can adopt? Ellis Don does. Okay, let's go look at that and see what we can augment and kind of perfect to make it our own. But organically, that's really how it started, is just kind of like jumping in wherever there was a gap, right? And taking an opportunity to make it better and make it stronger to the point where I can pass it on and say, okay, now I need to hire someone who knows better than me to make this better than it can be. So that's really my truth and my story, is that anywhere there was a gap, even janitor, like as silly as that may sound, we ended up getting a small office. We couldn't afford a cleaner, so you clean up, you do what you got to do. And it was just wherever there was an opportunity to fill in a role, I ended up putting on that hat. So before you know it, I finished school. I was working for various companies, different contractors, in fact. So it was always, my experience has always been in construction. But I was working with an electrical contracting company at the time, and I hated it. The guy, I think I've told the story a million times, but this is one of my foundations. I think some of you guys have heard. But long story short, he made my blood boil. Every time I walked into that office, I said, I can't do this. So I ended up quitting diplomatically, gave my resignation. And the way I conducted myself as a young individual, for whatever reason, he took to that. So when I ended up going back to the family business and working for a bit, things were dry back then too. It was a very hard time to find work. So he and my former employer ended up calling me back and saying, hey, what are you doing with your time? And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, I thought he's calling me to give me shit for something that I did again, right? And it just got, we had a very contentious relationship. But little did I know, he called me back to offer me another opportunity with one of his clients at Orlando Corporation. And I only wanted to reference that because it doesn't matter what we do, all of our experience matters, right? And if I had burnt that bridge with the electrical contracting company, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to work with one of the biggest developers in Mississauga. And there I learned everything about holdbacks. I learned about, like, I was an accounting clerk at the time, but I had an in with all the project managers. And that gave me a whole new vast of experience that I was able to now bring to the family business. So it was important that I didn't burn the bridge, and especially any industry that we're in. If we're in medical, if we're in construction, just be cautious of that. I just want to leave that as a takeaway. Just be cautious of burning bridges. Sometimes you might have to scorch them. I get it, right? Like sometimes it's just I'd never want to deal with an individual or a company again. Their ethics or values don't align with my own. Next. But at the same time, you never know if that person is going to come work for you or you're going to go work for them, especially in our industry as tight as it is. So, okay, so my growth journey, right? How do I lead without the emotion? Sometimes that's hard, but sometimes it's needed. I was telling the gentleman from the Ministry of Labor, we recently, and I'm not proud of this, but we recently had an incident where one of our workers fell. Life-altering incident, okay? My guys in the field didn't know how to deal with that, right? They didn't know how to respond. They didn't know what to say, how to even just provide support to this male individual. But that's where I stepped in, and it just, maybe it's my motherly instinct, I don't know, but who I am, I care. And if I care, you're gonna feel that I care. So the first thing I said was, I wanna make sure that this individual doesn't have any loss of pay. Whatever we gotta do until WSIB kicks in, get it done, right? So if it takes months, it takes months, but I do not want their family to have to deal with him recovering, maybe never able to walk again, and then worry about where their mortgage payments are coming from. So figure it out. And I'm in a position that I can do that, number one. I mean, times are tough, and sometimes you can't always do it, but when you can, you must. So it's little things like that where my emotion comes through, and it actually makes the situation better. But when it comes to certain meetings, when it comes to negotiating, trying to get the sales, like trying to get that next job, you do have to check yourself. And sometimes I fight with that as a woman. I want to be able to express my emotion the way I am. This is who I am. Love me or leave me, right? But it hasn't been very beneficial. Some guys shy away from it. I see where they're like, ooh, she's emotional. Ooh, I don't, ooh, right? And it depends. Like, you really have to know your audience. And I would say, like, with anybody that you're doing business with, or even just your colleagues, you know, or you have to kind of know what can motivate them and what demotivates them. It's any relationship. So if it benefits the circumstance, use it. And if it doesn't, try to just alter, not even just altering yourself. You don't want to diminish yourself, but you do have to adjust yourself accordingly. I hope that answered.
Yes.
Okay. Third question.
It's about the construction.
Oh, it's hard. It's so hard right now.
The market.
The market's very difficult. My opinion, this is worse than COVID. I mean, at least with COVID, we had financial relief. We saw some monies flowing that can keep businesses and people afloat. Right now, it's very limited to those who are highly affected. And even when you're highly affected, the money that's available isn't much, right? So, and then you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, the government shuts down in the US, everything stops, right? So it's so unpredictable. The few jobs that we're seeing are more infrastructure related. So we're seeing lots of hospitals, some school modifications and like renovations. But it's been, in my opinion, we're in a recession, I'll say. Like, we're going in that dip. You feel it in the construction sector. There's not, and looking at the cranes that we used to have, we had over 200 and something cranes in the city. We're down to less, I think, than 100, right? Like, so it's telling when you look. And when you see the permits and the number of buildings that are being placed on hold or inevitably canceled, right? So we're all feeling it, so we just have to try to navigate these rough times and pivot wherever you can. Okay. And then the last question.
The approach. I think the answer to
Okay. Yeah, okay.
was about the approach, but you explained about how you manage.
Being flexible, I think, is the biggest thing. Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was a good challenge. Yeah, good. But what about you guys? I'm curious to know, do we have time? Like, I don't want to run into another...
Yes, we have a little bit of time.
We have a little
yes.
bit of time?
Yes, definitely.
Can anyone share their story with me on what brought you here? What are you guys looking to gain? Where you're at in your journey? I'm looking at the lady in red here because, yes.
There you go.
Thank you. So my name is Valerie. I'm with QP Local 79. I work for the City of Toronto. And I'm not in the construction business, of course, but I have a very strong passion for women's rights and issues and human rights in general, and women's rights and human rights. And so I'm not a morning person. We covered that in the earlier session. However, you wouldn't know that because if there's an event such as this, that I need to be there to show my support, I'll get up. I'm from right downtown Toronto, right just east of the Eaton Centre.
Wow.
With my neighbor, and I dragged her. I only told her last night, and we're here.
Good.
And we took
Thank you
the
for
lovely
coming.
TTC,
Yeah.
right? So it's important because this is the 21st century. This is outrageous that we are still struggling for this equity when it comes to women's rights. And just last month, October, in Canada, we celebrated Women History Month, because they do it in March in America. You know, they have to be different. And it was what, October 18th, 1959, was when the Canadian government legally declared women as persons. And I'm like, what the hell? What were we before? Aliens? And so, and Canada is a country that prides itself on human rights. But you could have fooled me. So when I see things like this, I am glad to see that women are getting involved in the trades. What's to stop women?
100%.
Just because it's their gender, that's supposed to hold them hostage for life? No. And I'm glad that women are seeing that. Younger women, black, racialized, indigenous women are moving forward.
Yes.
Because that's how we have to do it. We can't stop and say, oh, well, it's going to be too challenging.
So let me ask you one last question then. What do you think needs to change?
Great question.
I think it starts with how we socialize women and men differently in terms of their roles based on their gender. I think that needs to go. We need to just have women be who they want to be. As you said, you're lucky that you didn't have to just play with dolls. But not all girls grew up that way. Some of us grew up with, you're restricted to playing with dolls because you're a girl.
Yes.
You play with trucks because you're a boy. So it starts early that we do this to people. Look at what we do with babies. Pink Pampers is for girls, blue Pampers are for boys. It starts really early. And so we need to change that. And eventually, it will flow. But if you still have it, because you still have it even in government, where they think that you shouldn't be an MPP because you're a woman, or you shouldn't be a CEO of a big corporation because you're a woman, the mindset is still there, so it needs to change.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I agree. Yep. Perfect.
Oh, nobody needs a mic.
I think to touch on your point about change too, I think most of us generational, right? I know for myself, my dad coming to Canada or whatever, had always instilled, I don't care what you do, but get into government. I don't care what you do, just get into government. How you get to government, whatever, because he just saw that level of comfortability and that, at the end of the road you get the pension. So, I'm a, wife, a mother, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I got into government at 33 that was like A++ for my dad. But then, 3 years ago, I told him I'm leaving government, and it was like big tears, right? But then, I think it's generational because, for some of us or whatever, we're always trying to please that parent or please that person, or they've already dictated in terms of what we are supposed to be doing. And it's not until you get that kind of like where you can now separate yourself and get that aha moment to say, now, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do now. And I'm sure there's many of us in this room today that we started off doing something because somebody told us that we had to do it. They already had predicted our pathway for us, right? Now I'm 51 now, and so I always been chasing the dollar or chasing the higher pay. And it didn't matter what type of job it was. It was just about the money. But I can honestly say in the last 3 years, I've been chasing and developing a career. Because now it's on my terms. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think that makes a difference, and especially for women and stuff like that. I don't know about men, the men in the room, if that happens, but I know for a lot of women, your choices are already dictated to you. And you're there to appease whoever that is, right?
Hello. Hi, I have a question. What would be your advice to young black women who are trying to get into leadership, or they're trying to take their career to the next level? I don't know if it's because I'm on social media, but there is this big thing now where it's like, yeah, it's not a big thing, but it's being spoken about now, like where black women have to, we have to deal with passive aggressiveness in the workplace, or whenever we speak, everyone is silent because they're writing all our ideas down, and then once we turn our back, we're not included in anything, but we see our ideas being executed and stuff like that. So with all that cocktail of thoughts, what would be your advice to young black women who are trying to take their career to the next level? Maybe, yeah. I know your like situation is like a family type of thing,
But I've been involved in businesses before where that's happened. And surprisingly, it's even happened in the family business, right? Among some of my male counterparts. It happens all the time. It's tough because it gets exhausting, but you do have to fight through it, and you do have to sometimes raise your voice even louder to make sure that people do know that, yes, this was my idea. And ultimately, I mean, if we're working on an idea together that's going to better the greater good, we're just glad it happens, but we want the recognition. We want to make sure that people do know that this was my thought, this was my, incentive. And from my experience, it's just I've had to get really loud about it. And it almost appears not so much that you're angry, but it's just you need to make sure you prove that point, because once you have kind of stepped over that threshold and it's known that you're not just going to settle for anybody just walking all over you, it doesn't happen as often. And it's almost like everything that we do, we must practice it. If we practice saying nothing, you're not going to get the results you want. You do have to sometimes build up that courage and speak up and speak louder. That was my situation. And I even go back to the contractor that I spoke about. We literally, we almost fought, and that's how bad it was. It was an Eastern European man. He never called me the N-word, but he would demote me and degrade me and the things that he said, that I had to speak up. I had to stand on my own. If I had just turned away and ran, like, what kind of message am I sending? It wasn't easy. And nor did I realize what the result would have been in having another opportunity. But I had to do what was right for me. So that's probably the best advice I can say is just don't give into it. Try to keep practicing and raising your voice louder.
And from black girl to black girl,
Yes.
how do you do that without cursing them out?
Yeah, you have to remain professional, right? Speak eloquently, know your shit. I'm sorry to say that, I know I'm cursing, but this is construction. But you gotta know your stuff. And I think the more you can prove that you know what you're talking about, you know you have good ideas, people can't take that from you. And the more you exemplify it, the more you portray it, the more it's gonna get recognized, and it will start to diminish, but it does take a long time. I've been in this industry 22 years. It wasn't easy. Yeah. Yes.
The only thing I would say is that setting the tone.
Create those boundaries.
Anywhere you go is setting the tone. I know for myself, when I started Ministry of Labor, the gentleman wouldn't talk to me. And it wasn't because of color. It was because I didn't have the right parts, right? And so the person that was my partner, the other program assistant, he was a male. He was a black male. And what the inspectors would do would come in. They weren't rude or anything. They just didn't know how to talk to me, right? So when they would come in or whatever, they would always ask. His name was Are. He was Nigerian. And so they would come in and, they would see me. Is there anything I can assist you with? And then, where's Are? Oh, well, Are's not here today, but I can help you. And I would see them kind of look at me and pause and go, you know what, I'll wait till Are comes. Right? So after a while, it got annoying. So I had to kind of put myself inside there. But I always approach things with humor, but a firmness, right? So part of it was kind of like, you know what, hey, I can speak Tiger Woods, or I can speak hockey if you like, or whatever the case may be, and kind of open that door. But for some situations and some scenarios or whatever, it's just sometimes these men just they're either uncomfortable talking to you, especially with sexual harassment and all that kind of stuff. They don't know how you're going to interpret the way they're talking, that it's now going to get them in trouble. So some of them would avoid talking to you. Or the other thing too is that, some guys, like I'll give you, sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's good. It's good.
There's a gentleman that's soccer player, there's a famous soccer player, and I just read something where he is very adamant in terms of how he talks to women. If it's not his wife, like, he won't let anybody touch him. He won't do it because he's afraid of the ramifications and because of his status and his stature. But when he's with his wife, he's all over his wife or whatever. But I watched a video with him where people are like, he's a very handsome man, so they're gushing over him or whatever. He will not touch anybody. He will not speak to anybody because he's just afraid. So there are some men that are just afraid to talk. So you have to really set the tone with them to say that, these are my boundaries. These are the type of conversations you can have. And then once you set that tone, that could hopefully open a door for some level of dialogue.
That's a very good point. Remember to always lead with humanity. Like at the end of the day, we're all people, right? Male, female, like we all have experiences in our lives that, and I like this, find a way to connect even, and then get in. And when I say being loud, it doesn't mean like roaring and being loud, but it's being consistent and having to put your foot down, keep those boundaries, keep setting that tone. Yeah, I love that. That was really good. Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to the question that you had asked about leadership, being connected, especially for young black women. I think there are a couple of organizations now that have like some sort of leadership program, whether it's specifically geared towards black women, but at least young women. So maybe you can look to that. I can't give you a name off the top of my head. And connect with mentors. Well, we call them in the union movement femtors, who may be able to guide you. For CUPE itself, for years they'd worked on a program called Women in Leadership Development, WILD. Because, and even within the union movement, there's still inequity, but they found people who started it, because I came into it myself when I was chair of the Racial Justice Committee, that black, racialized, and indigenous women were not getting the same opportunities in the movement, in the union movement, in terms of leadership, to become like run for president or vice president, what have you. And so for years they developed that, and that came out of another program for equity. And so that was launched, and I have to say, they did the second cohort roll off, because it's a school where they choose like 10 to 14 members when they apply to be trained in the WILD program. What we have now, we've seen in CUPE, the women from the first cohort at least, I'm not sure about the second one, they have the, they feel confident now that they can do anything that they want to do within the union space and outside of that. And so we have some of these women are now maybe on the executive board for one of their locals. They're on a women's committee. Before that, they didn't feel that they could. So that's a very successful program, but that's within CUPE. It's so successful that CUPE national body wants to roll out the whole program to everyone, to all women throughout Canada. So if I could find any information that I could pass on to anyone about the leadership or something that specifically speaks to maybe young black women, absolutely I will share that, because I think it's crucial and it's time. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to be very quick. I'm really always touched by how and the growth that I see continually in construction with whom Natasha always supported, always. This young lady made a comment, and I didn't understand it. So I'm going to ask for clarity. And she says, from black woman to black woman, and I wanted to know what that meant. No. I'm asking the reason why. Natasha knows what I do on the side and what I'm doing within the Caribbean. So I need to understand so that I could then perform in the manner which is right or proper. So I just need to understand the term and what it meant.
Can I start this? I'm sure we all.
I really want to know, because it's not that. It's not that.
No, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
So the thing is that I see so much because of the level and the amount of women that we have coming in the construction industry. So it is very important.
Did you want to kick it off since it was your comment? Sorry? Did you want to respond to Sefton? Or would you like me to respond to Sefton? You can. I can respond? Okay.
I feel like you have
I'm speaking like from experience and from a collective body of experiences, but I think what I really wanted to just hone in on is, number one, it's hard enough being Black, right?
Yes.
It's hard enough having to deal with the racism that we encounter. Then couple that with genderism. Couple that with not having, employers not giving you an opportunity to really shine because you're a woman and you're Black. Right? I hear my husband speak about this all the time, and he's a part of another association that does really great work, and he talks about the racism in the law enforcement industry. I said, I get it, and as a man, I get it. But imagine as a Black woman, as a woman of color, of any kind of color, and trying to fight that adversity, it's hard. And when you don't have people in your corner and you feel like you're alone and you feel like you can't speak up, where do you go? Yeah, you can get loud, and I say it, and I understand that there's still that struggle. You want to be loud, you want to be heard, but then if you're too loud, you're too much. If you start cussing too much, you're too wild and out of orderly, and you're ghetto, and you're too meek, and you just get stepped over. So what does that balance even look and feel like? And it's hard. It's a hard juggling act. And earlier the question was asked, how do you even just hold your emotion? Sometimes you just want to scream, and you can't, because then you'd be looked at different. You might even be punished. There might even be ramifications for your employment because you're too angry, you're too bossy, you're too abrasive. So it's very delicate. I think that is the hardest, that's the hardest thing that we have to do as women, is trying to find the balance of being a woman of color, being a woman, trying to be professional, still being a mother, still being a wife, still being a sister, still being all of those things that is expected from traditional and generational values. And we're still expected to do it all with a smile, right? Please.
But I also feel to the, Black on Black, whatever, but I also feel just as women as general, you're in spaces as well when there's a level of competition in order to get ahead. Sometimes it's not about the color, it's just women and women battling each other. And that's hard. That's very difficult.
That was going to be my second question.
You know what I mean?
now.
So I predominantly, I guess for the last how many years, I've predominantly been working in very male-dominated spaces. My mentors, which is very important, and that's why we're here in this organization, mentorship and all that. A lot of my mentors are older white men. And they're the ones that saw my vision. They're the ones that saw my hunger to get to know things. They're the ones that said, I'm going to give you a shot. They're the ones that threw me in the water with my life jacket on, hoping that I'd sink or swim or whatever the case. They're the ones that gave it to me. And I find that when I do seek assistance from women, sometimes from Black women, I don't get it. Because they now see or look at me because I want a leg up. I just want a leg up. I'm not trying to steal anything or take anything from you, but because I want that leg up, I am now competition for you. I'm not they're fearful that I'm going to take away whatever they have. And so they want to gatekeep, right? And it makes it very difficult. And I only speak of Black women. Listen, from the time I start, getting a feel for you or whatever, and I get that sense, boom, I'm done. I'm gone.
Okay, so that was my part two.
Yeah.
Because I am finding that on a very large scale in what I'm doing. So the thing is, how to navigate through that pieces. So I might be the founder, but I've put females in places to run organizations but now you're getting the female on female one up, and so I am now trying to figure out, again, I gotta always bring back in every couple weeks or month, I gotta circle back like Natasha was saying, have a staff meeting, figure out how do we then move ahead, because it's now becoming more prevalent.
Well, I think also setting the tone, but you know what, if I'm going to be very brutally honest right now.
Well, yes.
A lot of the women that act that way, if I could say that, it's a level of insecurity within themselves, okay? They're insecure. So when you're a level of insecurity about yourself, and then somebody's coming just to get some information or get that leg up, like I was saying, then you start being threatened or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to take anything from you. I see something inside you that I like. Like, for example, Natasha, I love the way you speak. You're very eloquent in your speaking, right? So if I were to say, could we grab a coffee and, teach me so that when I get up to a podium, I can speak, that's all I want. I'm not trying to take away anything from you. I see something inside you that I really enjoy, and I would like to emulate that as well and cultivate it as my own. I'm not trying to be like you. It's the same thing with, a woman with a dress or whatever. I'll tell you my entire outfit, where to get it, where to buy it. I'll go there and hold your hand and pay for it for you. But at the end of the day, I'm not insecure to know that we could be wearing the same outfit at the same time, but I know my outfit will be better than yours. That's just the bottom line. But it's a matter of I am
That was a Rihanna moment.
straight, okay? So I have no problem sharing. But I find that a lot of women have a problem with sharing because of the fact of lack of insecurity and the fact that they're afraid that I'm going to take something away from them, but I'm not.
What is the course line? There's got to be a course line that you're training.
These roles that the women are in particularly, are they more or less technical roles? Are they more technical or less technical than, let's say, other roles in the organization?
Technical or administrative?
No, they're not administrative. They're more as in plumbers, framers, electricians.
Okay, so
Everyone. Yes. They
So they are skilled trades roles.
Just skilled trades.
And then what kind of situations are you finding that, is it not similar for the men though, or is it
No.
different the way that they do it?
Men handle the situation differently.
Men don't
What are
act
the
like that.
situations though? Like this is very specific, like it's limiting.
No, we're not diverting into a different. I am sorry. I am so sorry.
I think it depends how, like, it does make a
Take your
difference.
mic.
Yes, the reality is. No, and it's true. Like somebody who's, and I get this from men who are insecure. They are more reluctant and more standoffish if they don't know something.
Yes.
Sometimes they do it as a cover for that. They don't want to answer your question because they can't.
Yes.
But they try to, instead of looking competent, they try to look like they're unwilling. So it's very different. Do you follow?
Yes, I know.
So and the men will do this. So this is not like a female trait. I just want to be careful with that. Men do this stuff all the time. But you see, put it in perspective. Men are doing that because they don't want to look stupid in front of you, right? So they're going to be unwilling to give you the information because, right.
In general, they don't want to look that. Like this dynamic plays out everywhere. So my question is, what is different about how the women are dealing with those situations? Like what stands out about that to you? Because men do those things. Maybe it just doesn't escalate where you hear about it, but men do that stuff all the time.
Okay, all right. It really looks like we need another discussion, but we are strapped for time, and we have to allow Natasha to wrap up. And we do have a little activity, but we can continue this during networking and all of that. We do go up until 4 o'clock. We can continue with this. Yes, I'm going to give her. We can continue this during networking, but because we're here until 4 o'clock. But this looks, you see why it's important to come to these sessions? It's very, very important, right? To come and to speak up and to let your voice be heard. And if you want to hear Natasha speak again, because we already talking about booking her again. So make sure to show up at the events, all right? One short question, comment?
It was a comment towards.
Here's the mic. Here's the mic.
Is it? Hold on. Okay. I mean, I think it goes. It's to overall, and it's a comment towards. I'm not sure what the project you're trying to accomplish is, and towards what Tony Ann is sort of facing in terms of with women. When you meant, and I'm sorry, I do not know your name, but. So when Elvira asked, what positions these women hold, I think it's important because it boils down to anthropology without getting too deep. But if there's not an equilibrium of women, within that team, if you don't have more women on that team, say if they're still the minority, there's 1 woman, 5 men, or 2 women, 7 men, those women are going to always compete. They're not even knowing why they're competing. It's just something deep down in that amygdala that's making them compete. Now, if you have more women on the team, they're going to become more cohesive. And that's how it's going to work out, no matter what level they are in your organization. And it's kind of the same thing with men too. When men don't have to compete, they become more cooperative with each other. So when you've got a more balanced looking team, if you want to use the metric of whatever the population is in that area, if it's literally 60% men and 40% women, if you have 40% women on that team, 60% of that team men, you're going to have more cohesion just from our animal brains, our lizard brains.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me.
All right. Yes, thank you so much, Natasha. We do have a token of our appreciation hiding somewhere about the place.
I'm not going anytime
I was hoping that you'd come, but yeah. But I want to say, Onika, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to be here with us, spending your weekend with us. We truly appreciate you and your presentation, and I mean, even our off conversation, despite your circumstances, still being here, you know, absolutely appreciate it. So, of course, it's our TCBN's branded merch. I don't know how much of these you have because you come to some more.
Keep representing it.
But yes, we appreciate you, truly. And we already, as I said, in discussion about booking you for another. We want to hear this presentation again. And I think more women should hear this presentation. More employers should hear this presentation because there's so much that you can do to accommodate, right? And I feel that if all the employers just try to take the steps to accommodate more women, not just women, but anybody who needs accommodation, as long as you know that you're not taking advantage of it, because we know that happens, right? So we're extremely grateful to have you here in our presence. Thank you so much. All right, can I give you? All right, so our final activity, we have an what you call it, biased activity. What was that? Stephanie will explain the activity to you, and that is our final thing, and then we'll get out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. But I want to say thank you so much to the team, to the committee. You put your hands together for all of them. You've done so well to put this event together. It has been months of planning and, you know, back and forth and, you know, trying to secure the speaker, panelists, all of that. And let me just say too that literally asked Natasha like a week or so, and we have this wonderful, wonderful presentation. So we're extremely, extremely grateful. So look out for more Her Path Forward events come next year. All right, so all of those, we have some more events in the pipeline for you. So let me leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming. Please participate in our little activity before you go. Thank you. Come on, Stephanie.